We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity.
We know the air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
Silence! The great and powerful Oz knows why you have come.
You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it! My life has value. You have meddled with the primal forces of nature.
Don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts.
With Jason Bermas.
And who loves you? And who do you love?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Reality Rants. I am Jason Bermas. This is Red Voice Media. And today I'm going to take you back in time to a little place called the 90s. And I got to admit, despite having a multitude of obstacles, at least in my opinion, as a kid becoming a young man during that era, I still look on it extremely fondly. Extremely fondly. Maybe that's because of my innocence. But I certainly saw a shift in society, some for the better, some for the worse, in my opinion. Just saying. Although the shift for the better during the 90s, I'm just going to say, felt more real. There didn't seem to be a lot of negative things going on, in my opinion, at the time from that perspective, especially pre-9/11. And a young Jason Bermas, I know we played a clip from 4, maybe 5 years ago yesterday. Everybody was commenting on how young I looked. Yeah, the last 4 or 5 years have been rough on old JB. You know, he looked like a younger man back then. Not so much anymore. The miles are coming on. The grays aren't as easy to hide, with the hair gel. But, you put the hair gel in, you got the salt and pepper. It's the Clooney look I've always talked about, only now we got a little giblet here I got to get rid of. And all my fault, by the way. All my fault. But in the mid-90s in particular, into the late 90s when I was in college, Jerry Springer was a huge phenomenon, and I was guilty as charged. I love Jerry Springer. I couldn't get enough of it. It was my kind of trash television. Now, I want people to understand this. Obviously, my crowd's a little older, so you're going to get this, but reality TV really hadn't launched yet. Okay, you had the makings of it with MTV and The Real World. There were some game shows that started to come on the scene very late 90s. I remember Love Island or Temptation Island or one of those stupid things. People didn't really understand how scripted a lot of talk shows were. You kind of thought they were all the same thing, and obviously Jerry Springer was not the same thing. And although some of it was real, most of it was fake and produced. And when I learned that was kind of like a big scandal people don't talk about with the Springer Show. Lots of scandals in Jerry's life, by the way. Jerry's a politician. Jerry got caught, I believe when he was the mayor of Cincinnati, writing a check to a prostitute. Later on, during the Springer Show, there was a sex tape controversy where one of his guests, who I believe was in porn, and her mother or stepmother taped Jerry, after an encounter in the hotel with them. The guy, pretty had those type of scandals going on. Okay. And Springer was also on the talk radio circuit in the beginning of the Air America days, when the left was trying to really take on what is prominently conservative radio, right? Even the independent talk stuff, like it's tough for Jason Bermas to get on terrestrial radio. Just saying. Be another goal of this show, right? To simulcast or have them take the show and then rerun it later at night, audio form. Great. Until then, we'll pay for the Podbean, folks. You can bean it up. You can listen to it live. We'll end up taking calls once we get big enough. But I feel like you got to have on the Bean listen alone 500 to 1,000 people. We're way away from that on the live streams to start taking calls and whatnot. Back to Springer. Springer was appealing because when I grew up, the biggest thing really out there, especially when you got home from school that wasn't cartoons, was daytime talk shows, right? And this is the era I'm out of school by 3:30, and Phil Donahue, Sally Jesse Raphael, and the queen to boot, Oprah Winfrey. Daytime talk made Oprah Winfrey. In fact, daytime talk was so big that people like Oz and Dr. Phil, who went on Oprah Winfrey, got their own talk shows. All right, so there was a stark contrast between that and what you would see on Jerry Springer, right? I guess the gap bridge would be like Maury, had the who's the baby, who's the father, and there was a little bit of that on Springer. But Springer was really about being shameless. And that's the next part of this that I want to get into. And that's where we part ways. Like, Jerry was a icon. He was, I remember, what I wanted to put out there for his death was the fact that he was in Austin Powers 3, which may be the funniest one. They're all pretty funny. But Austin Powers 3 has that really big intro, all the stars, all that stuff. In fact, we didn't play yesterday the Schwarzenegger Danny DeVito White House intro. Maybe we'll get to that today. I don't know. I've got a bunch of clips, and I want to do a watch along with the Commonwealth Club and the lessons learned from the COVID war. The war. So when I now look back on Jerry Springer, I realize it really is the emergence of the shameless victimhood society, where there was no longer any pride in keeping your mouth shut and your business to yourself. Everybody should have a megaphone. Everybody should get out there. Everybody should get their 15 minutes of fame, right? It really doesn't matter for what. And that was the overarching message, in my opinion, of that show. And it got me to thinking about the word shame in the first place. And this is a distinct memory. And this is pre-Springer, by the way. And boy, I got to tell you guys, I watched Springer religiously. Like, by the time he started getting big when I was in college, 97, 98, you could watch a 3 to 4 hour block of Jerry, because it was syndicated on so many channels. So many channels. By the way, died of fast-acting, I believe, pancreatic cancer. You get that diagnosis, that's a tough one to beat. So it brought me back to a conversation I had with my grandmother. Now, my grandmother wasn't around. She was the first of my grandparents to go, but really gone by my early teen years, somewhere in there. And, my grandmother was so good to me as a kid. I really have nothing but fond memories of both her and my grandfather. Like, awesome grandparents to me. That's where I got my passion maybe for cooking. I talk about that, especially the Italian stuff. Watching my grandmother cook and the Italian meatballs, the whole stereotypical 9. Okay? And just kind of out of nowhere, I have no idea what I was doing. No idea what I was watching. Probably oblivious. Probably watching something or saying something maybe that she didn't like. I have no clue. But she looked at me and she goes, the problem with society right now, and it's, I'm a kid, and she goes, and it's not, just your generation, but your parents' generation, and even, maybe a little bit older than that, because my mom, she's like 16 years older than me. She goes, no one has any shame anymore. She goes, at all. No one's ashamed when they mess up or they do something wrong. They boast about it. They brag about it. It's not hidden away. They're not trying to improve themselves. And she's like, when you have that type of a society, things fall apart. And I was like, man, that's pretty profound, Grandma. Like, I still think about it to this day. And we should have shame, right? None of us are perfect. And there'll be, I guess, psychologists out there and people for your mental health that would totally disagree with that. You have no reason to be ashamed of this behavior or this thought process or this action. Bullshit. I'm sorry. Inherently, there is a good. Inherently, there is an evil. I truly believe that. And I'm not not here to get biblical, not Mr. Preacher Man. But at its core, most of us get that, right? It's not a big question, is it? That good and evil exists, people do wrong, and some people embrace that. Or I don't care. But then the next thing is, you look at the Springer thing. Not only do I not care about it, I should be celebrated for it. And that's what Jerry Springer really brought out. Like, again, a lot of those guests were some of his producers, a lot of the goofier stuff. So much of it wasn't true. But then you also see, back in the day, the people that wanted to be dressed like babies. The adult baby thing. That's making a big comeback. I'll never forget watching that on Jerry. Now, that was kind of on some of these other talk shows like Phil Donahue and et cetera, had a little more gravitas. But Jerry would really play into like the adult baby thing, the I didn't know she was a man thing. That was another big one. I have a surprise for you. It's like, really? You have a surprise? And they'd act surprised? That should have given it away for me. So the shame thing's something to think about. That's profound. There's another angle on this that I want to talk about as well, and that's the pro wrestling aspect of it. That's the ringmaster Jerry, right? Because at its core, I think Jerry was a pretty liberal guy, but, liberal in the sense that he allowed free speech even if he disagreed with you. Might have fallen off the rocker at the end. He was encouraging people to, and he did do that, folks. I'm just going to say. He's got a video on it. We'll probably have to play that video in the second hour, as everybody knows. And by the way, second hour free now. Come on over to Rumble. Subscribe over at Red Voice Media. Subscribe over at my channel as well. Let's build the Rumble audience. If you're a Rokfinner, you get both hours now. And again, two interviews exclusive for the Red Voice Media Premium folks this weekend. Wayne Dupree going to be one of those. The other one's still kind of under lock and key. Really looking forward to putting that stuff out for you. The pro wrestling aspect is something that I didn't get of life. And Jerry Springer kind of like lifted the veil, right? Like, because you didn't have all the reality TV of the take 1, take 2, take 3, because I was a teenager, I didn't know anybody in the industry, because I believed the magic flashing box all the time, right? Because of those things, I was really adept to believing a lot of what was on the television, that red and blue mattered and the Republicans and Democrats were different things in politics. And when you start to see things other than pro wrestling getting the veil lifted back, especially with Springer, I think that kind of prepped me for understanding 9/11 and that pro wrestling game, period. Like, I really do believe that. When you start finding out, oh my goodness, these talk shows are rigged. Is the news rigged too? These reality shows are rigged. Is the news rigged too? Well, I can tell you it is. And now it's time for our first commercial break, folks. Get ready.
Have you heard of Executive Order 14067? This little-known order implemented the digital dollar, the most sinister plan to control your spending. And it gets worse. In November, the federal government and banks began a test program to roll out the digital dollar. With this, privacy for all Americans will be lost forever. Imagine, the government can now track all of your spending. The government can tell you what you can and can't buy. The government could confiscate your cash. When digital currency was rolled out in China, Bloomberg wrote, quote, "This will lead to control like no other," end quote. The EU has announced that they are next, but it is already happening in America, which makes this wealth protection guide that American Alternative Assets just put out even more urgent. Project Hamilton, as this secret order is being called, might be the scariest order to happen to privacy and freedom in America since its founding, which makes this wealth protection guide so incredibly valuable right now. Move your money out of cash and into something that doesn't infringe on your privacy. You see, there is one legal IRS-proof loophole that could protect your IRA, 401k, and pension savings with gold and silver. And this free guide tells you exactly which steps you need to take right now to move part of your IRA or 401k into precious metals with no tax consequences. As this program rolls out, the sky's the limit for the level of government control that could be enforced on your money. Protect your savings and your privacy. But in the devastation ahead, American Alternative Assets is offering you something rare, a chance to protect your wealth and possibly even grow it.
RVMGoldandSilver.com, guys. So let's wrap it up with Jerry. I just want to go over a few things. And then, like I said, on the premium portion of the broadcast, we'll play this clip where he says, tabloid talk host discusses having, you know what, and I swear by getting the you know what. In fact, here he is right here on the 21st of September, September 22nd. Actually, yeah, 22nd and 23rd. We'll play the TikTok and that afterwards. Now, I'm not making any inferences here. We could talk about that on the other side. We can't talk about it here. 79 years old. Obviously, no spring chicken. Not like the guy was a bodybuilder. Okay? Throwing those things out. But he had a huge influence on society. I'm going to remember him fondly. I'll be honest. And he was one of those guys. Air America had a few people on it. I think Mike Malloy was one of them in particular, that after they saw loose change, it was undeniable that we had been lied to about 9/11. And other people like Jerry just never could get there. No. They wanted to keep you in that box. And it's funny, yesterday we talked about Noam Chomsky and now his relationship to Epstein, and how, in my opinion, the litmus test was 9/11, and those that really had a good look at it and had the history like Chomsky, and not only denied there was anything to 9/11 truth, but actively helped smear it. That was the litmus test. El Garbajo. And I've got a clip that I'm going to play later on. It's going to go along with this story, so we might as well just jump into this one because it's to me, an important one. See how we do it a little different here? We do it a little different. We don't just grab every headline or every viral video that's out there that everybody else is talking about. There's a place for that. You know, I had people that wanted me to comment on the Crowder situation. I guess before I do this, I'll do that really quickly. I don't care. You mean a guy that was getting divorced from his wife was having marital issues? Like, I watched that 3-minute, I can't believe he would treat his pregnant wife that way. I'm not defending him at all, by the way. I'm just saying, you know, I've seen way worse in relationships. I've seen way more physical and psychological abuse than that, up close and personal. Doesn't shock me people act that way behind closed doors. I know it's stunning because, like, he's a conservative or whatever. But quite frankly, I don't have the time to really care about people that have tens of millions of dollars in their personal life, because I don't give a rat's ass. It's not what I'm trying to reach people's brains and activate them. And it'd be great if I was activating people with the kind of resources that Crowder had. Awesome. But I need everybody, no matter what your socioeconomic status, to step on up, to be their own hero. You know, to separate the noise of left, right, conservative, liberal. I hate you more. You're bad, you're worse, blah, 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 blah. And come together, man. Like, so many people keep sending me RFK clips of him talking about how they should be putting people in jail if they don't share the same climate change views as him. Terrible clip. It's from 2014. It's 9 years ago, almost a decade ago. I would hope that he's intelligent enough that he's now had the veil peeled back and he realizes what the agenda actually is of command and control via sustainability. Sustainability, the magic word. And he would rebuke himself for that and say, look, I made a mistake. I'm a human being. It's enough for me. It's enough for me. We all make mistakes, right, guys? I make mistakes. But a mistake I won't make is backing the Moderna team up with IBM to put AI quantum computing to work on mRNA tech used in the you-know-whatskis. Now, if you look here, this was published like a week and a half ago, April 20th, 2023. When I went to go find a clip about this, okay, I was looking just for, I was figuring, hey, yeah, we're going to do the story. And by the way, this story came from somebody who was in the Bermas Brigade, who was in my Twitter feed, who I think like last week sometime put up what I thought was a really, really cool thread with all these different articles on quantum computing, AI, and this bio-nanotech we're talking about. And this is why we focus on all of them together, because they do intertwine. And they'll continue to intertwine. All right? Like last night, I should look for this one, but they were talking about a surveillance system where these AI apps will now determine your mood. They're going to have access to everything. And it's going to be great. We're already there, where algorithmic profiles have been built on the vast majority of us based in not only our online activity, but our geolocation, the words we use, the time we spend places, and really, I mean, they talked about in this, the tone of our voice and how happy we are. All right? So, as I said, I was looking for a clip on this, and I found a clip, and the clip was 2 years old. It was from March of 21. So, it's a really, really quick clip. Let's see right here. And we're going to play. I mean, really, really quick. Then we're going to read this, because essentially, people need to understand that artificial intelligence is programmed by humans. They're human algorithms. He who controls the AI controls the narrative. So a lot of what you're being told is AI isn't true AI, period. And we've seen that. It's used to censor. I just want to keep that in mind as we watch this.
And just a note tonight, tech company IBM and Moderna, the pharmaceutical company, are joining forces in the race to speed up this vaccination process. The two are looking to use artificial intelligence and blockchain, that's a data storing system, to help improve vaccine distribution. Exciting stuff.
Oh, exciting stuff. It's so exciting. It's the most exciting. It's super exciting. So again, this is the modern article. And they got the nice little Getty images, Moderna on your smartphone logo. Yeah, clip art. Way to go, Getty. Moderna and IBM are teaming up to use generative artificial intelligence and quantum computing to advance mRNA technology, the development at the core of the company's blockbuster COVID vaccine. The companies announced Thursday. Yeah! Blockbuster! Woo! Can we get 100 thumbs up, everybody? Can we get a like, a share, and a subscribe? Remember, second hour free coming up over at Rumble, Rokfin, and everywhere else you get your independent media. We are excited to partner with IBM to develop novel AI models to advance mRNA science, prepare ourselves for the era of quantum computing, and ready our business for these game-changing technologies. Moderna CEO Stephanie Bancel said in a statement. Moderna shares dipped slightly Thursday, while IBM stocks was about flat. These companies said they signed an agreement for Moderna to access IBM's quantum computing systems. Those systems could help accelerate Moderna's discovery and creation of a new messenger RNA vaccine and therapy, according to Dr. Dario Gill, director of IBM Research. This is the biomedical techno-fascist society come to fruition to try to prey upon the shameless. Those that desperately just want attention or are unhappy, but want influence. And I was thinking about another, big pop culture term and wordplay the other day. And that was the term influencer. When I first got turned on to the term influencer, I didn't like it. I still don't like it. I think it's, it's ridiculous. Like, oh, are you one of those social media influencers? I hope not. Although, to me, the term actually shows you inherently how we're being lied to and manipulated as a society through these Bernaysian talking points, right? Because you're going to label people, mostly young people, okay, influencers. So you're acknowledging that human beings can be coerced and that have influence over other people. Some have called it undue influence in the past. And at the same time, you're being told that children can't be influenced about what they think their identity is or their gender is. Like, children weren't influenced back in the day to look at army men and fire trucks and astronauts as the things they wanted to be and the toys they wanted to play with, or cowboys. Of course that was influence. And of course, not only children can be influenced, but we as adults are constantly being influenced, whether we like it or not. Whether it's straightforward, zoom, right in there, or subliminally. Subliminal advertising works. It works on everybody on some level. We are all susceptible. And that's why another big thing to me is knowledge is power. The more knowledge you have over these things, the less likely you are to succumb to their undue influence. But it's all around us on every single level, in every single arena of society, in the shameless society, in the Springer society. We have to acknowledge it. But again, it's only cool to be a social media influencer. There is no influence of them on your children. And then there's this push, what? To give children a type of autonomy never seen in civilized society ever. Ever. Not once. Let me repeat that. Not once in civilized society have we said that children can consent to the type of things that we're pushing across the board in this country. And now the world, through this United Nations transhumanist agenda, right? We had some troll in there yesterday saying, Jason hates trans people. I don't. But I'm just telling you, the larger agenda is to get you to reject your biology as they take away parental rights and act like children can have the type of autonomy not only to reject their parents and no longer need guardians, right? But basically alter their biology for the rest of their lives, like it or not. Irreversible at the end, whether it be surgery or biochemically. That's nightmarish. I was thinking about it the other day. Thinking about a lot of things the other day. A lot of times to think. And that thought will come after this break from our sponsor. Let's get into it.
Folks, we have a huge problem on our hands. A banking crisis is spiraling, and it's all thanks to the current administration's reckless spending, sky-high inflation, and massive interest rate hikes. Now, these banks are suffering, and guess what? They can legally seize your savings without notice to bail themselves out. That's right. Thanks to a sneaky law passed back in 2008, it's now legal for banks to take your hard-earned money, including your retirement savings, to save themselves. Now, this could leave your retirement accounts decimated, and you paying the price for their disastrous policies. Take action now before it's too late. Now, this guide will show you how to defend your money and keep your retirement savings safe from the banking crisis and the current administration's financial fiasco. This simple and 100% legal strategy may help you protect your retirement against higher taxes, soaring inflation, and a volatile economy. So don't let your golden years be ruined by someone else's mistakes. To secure your free wealth protection guide and safeguard what's rightfully yours, don't wait. The time to act is now.
So that thought was on this push for 16-year-olds to be able to vote. 16. Okay? Now, look, I understand that you want to integrate young people that are transitioning from a child to a teenager to an adult with different levels of responsibility along the way so they can grow. And quite frankly, you know, there's that viral video of the two kids that look like they're 12, right? Going, "We Republicans, we don't like you." Blah, blah. What is this? But I'm watching it and I'm thinking to myself, those kids could be 16, and that push for 16. And anyone that's pushing for 16 for a kid to vote, and it's a kid, right? Like I have a problem at the 18-year range for sending people to war if they can't drink and they can't smoke cigarettes legally anymore. Big problem with that. But at the same time, I think 18, hey, you can get out of the house. I struggled, we were talking about Babyface B the other day. I struggled as a young guy to get any kind of respect or semblance because I looked like I was 14 years old when I was 22. Right? So it's frustrating to me. And I'm like, well, how long is this going to last? Am I going to have to be well into my 30s before people give me a little bit of respect because I look like I'm in my 20s? Right? So I don't even like that age stuff. And I don't sit here and go, Gen Z and millennials and in my day, blah, blah, blah. Right? It's not what we don't. You got a brain? Let's talk. I don't care how old you are. Let's have a conversation. But anybody who's pushing that is again pushing for the autonomy of young people and children to break away from the family structure. And that's key in any type of a cultural revolution, is you go after the kids. You go after the kids. Now, number one, it would be disastrous to have 16-year-olds vote because, quite frankly, in my opinion, I'll say this, some of the 30-year-olds that are voting, the ones that are living on their parents' couches until they're 30, 35. And that's not Gen Z or just millennials. I saw it in my generation so much. So much. And I consider myself X, 1979, baby. So much. Whereas, as soon as I get out of the house, I couldn't wait to get out of the house. Oh, I got to live with 3 other guys? Okay, whatever. And now that motivation just doesn't seem to be there. So, before we play this clip, I can't remember what movie it's from. It's a documentary film, and there's going to be a bit of irony in it because Noam Chomsky's in it. Right? This is like limited hangout Chomsky. But what he's saying here is correct. And it's also got Michael Moore in it, Howard Zinn before he died. And the reason we're going to play it, it's because it's about IBM and the Holocaust. You know, IBM. You remember IBM, right? IBM? Anybody? IBM and the Holocaust. And this stuff wasn't mainline for years and years and years and years and years and years. In fact, Edwin Black is the guy that you could really credit with diving deep into what really, I mean, this is part of not only biomedical fascism, but a fascism that wanted to regiment humanity, track, trace, database, the first computer system. So this is like a 4-minute clip, and it's IBM and the Holocaust. So we should be aware that IBM was involved in some pretty horrible things.
There was an interesting connection between the rise of fascism in Europe and the consciousness of politically radical people about corporate power, because there was a recognition that fascism rose in Europe with the help of enormous corporations.
Which it did. Which it absolutely 100% did.
Mussolini was greatly admired all across the spectrum. Business loved him. Investment shot up. And suddenly when Hitler came in Germany, the same thing happened there. Investment shot up in Germany. He had the workforce under control. He was getting rid of dangerous left-wing elements. Investment opportunities were improving. There was no problems. These are wonderful countries.
I think one of the greatest untold stories of the 20th century is the collusion between corporations, especially in America, and Nazi Germany. First, in terms of how the corporations from America helped to essentially rebuild Germany and support the early Nazi regime, and then, when the war broke out, figured out a way to keep everything going. So General Motors was able to keep Opel going, Ford was able to keep their thing going, and companies like Coca-Cola, they couldn't keep the Coca-Cola going, so what they did was they invented Fanta Orange for the Germans.
Again, always got to make that money, shake that money. I mean, Coca-Cola's story. Talk about Coca-Cola, South America, union organizers. Cold-hearted, man. Cold-hearted. And this is a reason, you know, I used to like Michael Moore. And I'll tell you what, not only did I used to like Michael Moore, to this day, if Michael Moore puts out a film, I watch it. I watch it. Fahrenheit 11/9, watched it. And by the way, I think a lot of the Capitalism, a Love Story, watched it. Really liked Capitalism, a Love Story. Don't agree with a lot of it. Doesn't matter. The one on the Columbine Massacre, right? Obviously, Fahrenheit 9/11 was that walkway, that bridge for a lot of people in 9/11 truth. A lot of people don't remember this, but Michael Moore actually got put on the spot about the Pentagon. I wonder if I can find that. Maybe we can find that in the second hour. And that's my big problem. Michael Moore also failed the litmus test, just like Chomsky on 9/11. That's great, guys, that you'll sit down, you know, in the 90s probably, or maybe the early 2000s, and talk about the Nazis and Mussolini and corporations and IBM. Great, thank you, we need that. But you didn't want to talk about 9/11 in the way you should have. And yeah, Michael, you tried to go. The thing is that really bothered me in Fahrenheit 11/9, when he's talking about the Trump administration, he finally refers to 9/11 as our Reichstag fire. And he refused to do that in the previous film when it could have been much more impactful. And guys like me, you know, had to put out loose change with that. You understand? See him, I get a little fired up, like Chad Kenton following the show.
And that's how Coke was able to keep their profits coming in to Coca-Cola. So when you drink Fanta Orange, that's the Nazi drink. That was created so that Coke could continue making money while millions of people died.
When Hitler came to power in 1933, his goal was to dismantle and destroy the Jewish community. This was an enterprise so fast that it required the resources of a...
That's the dude. Author. IBM and the Holocaust. Edwin Black. Okay, Edwin did just amazing research on this.
Computer. But in 1933, there was no computer. What there was the IBM punch card system, which controlled and stored information based upon the holes that were punched in various rows and columns. Naturally, there was no off-the-shelf software as there is today. Each application was custom designed, and the engineer had to personally configure it. Millions of people of all religions and nationalities and characteristics went through the concentration camp system. That's an extraordinary traffic management program that required an IBM system in every railroad direction and an IBM system in every concentration camp. Now, this is a typical prisoner card. There are little boxes where all the information is to be punched in. We compare this information to the code sheet for concentration camps. And here you see Auschwitz is 1, Buchenwald 2, Dachau is 3. Now, what kinds of prisoners were they? They could be a Jehovah's Witness for 2, a homosexual for 3, communist for 6, or a Jew would be 8.
And this is why also this is important. People have to understand when we're talking about the Holocaust and Hitler, it wasn't just Jews, it wasn't just gypsies, it wasn't just homosexuals. You just saw Jehovah's Witnesses. They're a long list. It's basically, if we don't like you and you don't go along with the party, we're going to lump you in with these other groups that we've demonized. That's Bad News Brown.
Now, what was their status? 1 was released, 2 was transferred, 4 was executed, 5 was suicide, and 6. Code 6. Sonderbehandlung, special treatment, meant the gas chamber or sometimes a bullet. They would punch that number in, the material was tabulated, the machines were set, and of course, the punch cards, by the millions, had to be printed, and they were printed exclusively by IBM, and the profits were recovered just after the war.
I really do believe that that particular accusation has been fairly discredited as a serious accusation.
Oh, it's fairly discredited as a serious accusation. Give me a break. Fairly discredited as a serious accusation. See how that terminology's always been around? The experts and the authoritative sources haven't reported on it. It's been discredited.
That is, the fact that they have used equipment, that is a fact. But how they got it, how much cooperation they got, and any kind of collusion trying to connect dots that are not connected, I think that's the part that is discredited. Generally, you sell computers and they're used in a variety of ways, and you always hope they're used in the more positive ways possible. If you ever found out they are used in ways that are not positive, then you would hope that you stop supporting that. But do you always know? Can you always tell? Can you always find out?
Again, absolutely ludicrous that IBM didn't know what was going on. That these corporations didn't know what was going on. It's all part of the war machine, man.
IBM would, of course, say that it had no control over its German subsidiary, but here on October 9th of 1941, a letter is being written directly to Thomas J. Watson with all sorts of detail about the activities of the German subsidiary. None of these machines were sold. They were all leased by IBM, and they had to be serviced on site once a month, even if that was at a concentration camp such as Dachau, Buchenwald. This is a typical contract with IBM and the Third Reich, which was instituted in 1942. It's not with the Dutch subsidiary. It's not with the German subsidiary. It is with the IBM Corporation in New York.
You know, as it happens, I know that story. I discussed it more than once with old Mr. Watson, and I was around at the time. I'm not saying that Watson didn't know that the German government used punch cards. He probably did know, after we had very few customers. Watson didn't want to do it. Was not because he thought it was immoral or not, but because Watson, with a very keen sense of public relations, thought it was risky.
So there you go, and let's take another word from our sponsor.
Folks, we have a huge problem on our hands. A banking crisis.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets, sleepwear, dog beds.
Whoa, Charles. Everyone now can get MyPillow products at huge discounts at MyPillow.com. That's right. Now's the time to go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our 3-in-1 sale. We're bringing you exciting new products, overstock specials, and closeout deals you won't find anywhere else. For example, when you buy one of our brand new MyPillow 2.0s, you get another one absolutely free. And with our overstock sale, you save 50% on our luxurious Giza Dream bed sheets. That's as low as $29.99 for the best sheets ever. And with our biggest closeout special, you get our all-season slippers for only $35. Or our sandals and slides for just $25. Quantities are limited, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Once they're gone, they're gone. Use your promo code RVM. All right, top of the hour, we leave YouTube. We continue on Rumble. You can go to the live stream. Remember, 12-hour live stream now over at Red Voice Media. And new studio coming into fruition. Big lineup. Please consider redvoicemedia.com/Jason, redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. Try it for only $1 today for the first week, and then it's $10 a month, or lock it in for a year. Tell them Jason Bermas sent you. $100, save $20, help support the broadcast. We're giving away 8 hours of free broadcasting. You get two premium interviews every single week. I want people to think about that. You know, complaining about the commercials, it's less than 5 minutes of commercials in an hour broadcast. Some breaks on on the major news webs 3-4 minutes a piece. The shows clock in at about 42 minutes max. We got 5 minutes max each hour. And by the way, the second hour, we go through commercial free until the end. So 55 minutes of unadulterated Bermas at the top of the next hour, and then the commercials. Come on. We're doing it big. We're doing it bigly. Okay. I got a couple more clips that I want to hit on this side, and then we got a ton to do on the other side. But I want to talk about the Proud Boys trial and the upcoming election really quickly. Look, these guys didn't commit seditious conspiracy. It's absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. Let me read who's, because everybody knows Biggs and Tario are, two of the people right now. But you have Ethan Nordine, okay? You got Zachary Rell, and you also have Dominic Pizzola, all right? Now, look, on varying degrees, those that went into the Capitol, etc., you could get charged with something, okay? Probably wasn't the best day for some of these guys. But I am really happy that we've now gone, I think, over 72 hours. I think there's deliberation going on right now, and maybe into the next week, that we still don't have a verdict. Because what you didn't want is for the jury to go into the back room, start discussing these things, and then come back guilty all the way down, like in a couple hours. First of all, there's a list of charges for each. There is no seditious conspiracy. Some of these other charges, maybe you could make a case for. They don't hold that much weight. Remember, these people were held and were not able to be released by bail or bond for what? For a show. For show trials. And to me, I've said it from the very beginning, especially after the Oath Keepers verdict with Stuart Rhodes. Remember, so many people were screaming, Fed, Fed, Fed on Stuart Rhodes. Remember that? We all going to go back in time to what was hip to say on the alt-conservative front on Rhodes. Rhodes is doing hard time. They came back pretty quick on his verdict. Hard time. Okay? And after seeing that, I said, these guys' best chance is for a mistrial. And then hopefully they're going to probably try to retry them if there is a mistrial, which is insane. And, they'll probably also try to keep them in jail until the next trial comes up. But they'll have a much better chance with a mistrial and a change of venue. And it would be pretty hard to argue they shouldn't get a change of venue after a mistrial. Just saying. Who knows? Who knows? I could see these people possibly coming back after a week, maybe by Friday of this week, with some guilty, some innocent charges. I think that's going to be a stretch. I really believe that the government may have overplayed their hand here in a place that they just expected guilty checkboxes across the board. Because, look, I don't cosplay. Okay? I'm not a LARPer. You're not going to see me in camo unless we're doing some shoot for a parody. Or perhaps it's Halloween and someone convinced me to go as a group. That'd be hard-pressed. I like to do my own thing on Halloween, but usually not military garb. And you could say they invited it with their talk and yet. They're not threats. I've been around these people. It's ridiculous. Again, it's LARPing. It's live action role play. You see the outfits on some of these guys, and it's not like the Proud Boys invented that role play and that LARP style. I've been around the Black Bloc. I was around Antifa before they were cool. I go to some of these protests. People have phone books duct taped around their bodies. I'll be like, are you really preparing to get hit by a pepper ball or a sandbag? Talk about making yourself a target. That doesn't mean you shouldn't prepare. My boy Luke, he's been in enough of them and goes in enough of them. He wears a helmet and goggles. Probably smart. I've seen people next to him get body parts blown off. That happens. Less lethal. Less lethal, everybody. Less lethal. So let's see. I had a few clips that I wanted to play. What am I going to play before this? I'm going to play... Do I have a clip on... Yes, the You Are Connected clip. That's the one I wanted to do. Because, look, I don't want any of these machines... I'm not making any accusations. But this is an article out of 2021. Election reform group seeks to ban on Dominion voting technology in Georgia. I want a ban on all these machines. If it can be plugged in and has a screen, no mas. No mas. They can tell you it's not hooked up to the internet and it's secure all day, but listen to this gentleman, okay?
Perhaps the most critical thing to learn is if you've got a computer, it's internet connected. You may think it's not internet connected, but it's internet connected. When I hear people saying, oh, don't worry, it's secure because it's not on the internet, it is. Remember that in the not so distant past, we used to spread viruses through floppy disks. Those are still doing this, introducing the same risks. Talk to the Iranians about Stuxnet. If you're not familiar with that, that was the case where a non-connected system was infected with malware to put out of commission nuclear centrifuges. I'm not saying nuclear centrifuges and voting machines are the same things, but it demonstrates that being off, you can't really be offline.
Exactly. That's another people don't understand about Stuxnet. It was somebody on the inside that infected their infrastructure. Okay? Wasn't supposed to be on the internet, and over time, the malicious software basically disabled these centrifuges and was almost completely undetectable. Remember, leaving YouTube at the top of the hour. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share everywhere. Come on over to Rumble and Rokfin for the second hour of the broadcast. By the way, I wish we were doing it on Twitter. I'm posting these things on Twitter because you can post up to an hour. Still can't stream via Media Studio on Twitter. Is there anybody out there that can help?
If you think you're secure, you haven't looked hard enough. I spent some time as a white hat hacker, one of the good guys who helped companies. It's pretty much a given that any system can be broken into. I'm glad DHS is doing the sorts of things they're doing as part of their the status as a critical resource. But anyone who thinks that's enough hasn't looked far enough. It's you don't do it once and then you're done. I've looked at some of the reports that have been made public from DHS. They are good.
He stops himself here. They're not good. They're not good at all. He's like, well, maybe they're not good.
But they are, or maybe I should say they're fair, but they don't really demonstrate the level of sophistication that a nation-state adversary would have. These systems are uniformly vulnerable, and I think that any cybersecurity expert who looked at any of these systems would come to that conclusion.
Uniformly, let me say that again, uniformly vulnerable. All right, let's hit a few more stories up before we go to the other side here. You know, and I haven't even gloated about these two. There's nothing really to gloat about. I kind of want to go into more of it than I can right here because we don't have that much time, but we might as well do it. BuzzFeed is shutting down, and I'm sure everybody's heard it. Vice, preparing for bankruptcy. So here's the deal. I want people to understand this. These media organizations that pop up out of nowhere and are promoted out of nowhere are tools of what? The great narrative. That's all they are. It's it. It's all they are. They are tools of a great narrative. I want you to think about it for a second. How in the world does a BuzzFeed just start having all of this money and getting all of this coverage and having all of this influence, right? Big bucks behind it. And the big bucks behind it aren't really looking for a financial return. Not from BuzzFeed itself. The financial return comes from the narratives that are promoted for the companies and the interests that they're colluding with. You get it? And like people will go to me, well, Vice was, grassroots. First of all, BuzzFeed has done some decent work. And I'll say that Vice back in the day did some decent work. And I often turn Vice on, by the way. People don't realize this, but one of the big influxes of money when Vice started to get popular, and before it had a TV show and then a TV network, right, when it was just like a series on HBO, Bill Maher backed a lot of that with Scratch. It's now infamous. We talked about the Proud Boys earlier, that Gavin McInnes was one of the founders of Vice. But Vice was super obscure before getting that tasty HBO money. And what they do is they come in with a small air of legitimacy, just, an eensy-weensy, teensy bit of it, and then exploit that. And then all of a sudden, it's every, effeminate dude ever on there. It's funny because, they still try to play to the quote-unquote bro culture there sometimes. Like, I think it's called movies with breaks. Like, oh, they'll have the hip movie, comedy, action movie over there. But then, the news, it's just, I can't, is it really news? I mean, January 6th especially. All right, one more commercial break. We'll come back on the other side briefly, and then we're going to premium redvoicemedia.com/Jason, redvoicemedia.com/uncensored. Okay, it's not really premium now because you just go to Rokfin and Rumble as well. But check out my VPN. Yeah, I actually use this one, folks.
We love the internet, but the internet is tracking everything you do. Take control of your online privacy with IPVanish. People with malicious intent are everywhere, watching you. Criminals can hack your Wi-Fi, while broadband providers and advertisers monitor your data. With IP Vanish on your device, your internet activity is encrypted. No one can see what you're doing. Your location, your connection, completely hidden. Protect your internet privacy today with IP Vanish.
With IP Vanish. So that's it. That's 1 hour up. YouTube, we will see you later. Come on over. Rumble, Rokfin, thumbs it up, subscribe.